Dark and the Wicked is not a horror film that'll take the world by storm with its scares, but what it will do is leave you with a taste of the familiar, all the while showing you just how isolating and horrifying it can be when you are trying to help your loved ones as best you can when grief and dread come knocking on the door and just refuse to leave. Now, this movie I did not think was going to wow me or actually scare me when I finally got around to watching it, but it really did surprise me with a plot that reminds me a lot of movies like The Taking of Deborah Morgan or Paranormal Activity. Mostly because of that thematic climax that we all expect to see when the devil, or demon rather, gets tired of playing and finally decides to take what it wants in the end. Now, when it comes to a twist of possession/haunting stories that goes into a psychological character deconstruction of both Louise and Michael, who are distant siblings who are brought back to the family farm in Texas when their father's illness, which keeps him bedridden and uncommunicative, cared for by his wife and a nurse, worsens. Right off the bat to this film, you are shown the daily routine of the mother of the main characters, Louise and Michael, on the farm. And with each scene, they did a good job at giving the impression that there is a foreboding and dark isolation that has claimed the family's home. But as the siblings arrive to the family homestead, that's when we, the viewers, and Louise and Michael will slowly find out just how ominous and dismal the mental well-being of their mother is. And as they try to understand why she is showing such distant and spiteful attitude towards the siblings, murmuring things like, "You shouldn't have came here," or "Y'all should leave," the mother then proceeds to end her own life, and as the siblings try to make sense of what's happening, they eventually start to ask the nurse that helps with their father what exactly their mother was like and how she acted towards the end. She then proceeds to explain just how strange she was acting, almost always exhausted and paranoid, and always whispering to her husband, but it never really did seem like she was talking to him, but rather someone else entirely. Now, before we continue, I just want to say I'm a big fan of paranormal horror flicks like this one, and with each one there's always the tropes and the expected jump scares and stupid character cliches and have practically become the norm and common practice in movies like this, but to my surprise they actually divert a lot of low expectations by showing a lot of good acting and writing. Like the part when the mother kills herself and the siblings are looking for her and find her in the barn with the goats. The whole scene where they cut her down and the whole way to when the next scene is when she's in the morgue was a very gripping and well executed performance with the actors and director, and the fact that they could keep the momentum going by always raising the stakes, whether it be with a supernatural happening that the siblings try to logically explain in the beginning, or the revealing of the journal that the mother leaves behind, which pretty much confirms that she was being harassed by the devil, even though it was revealed later in the story that both the siblings and the mother are atheists and actually don't believe in God or the supernatural. Really deepen the idea that these are just completely simple and normal people being totally ripped apart by something they can't explain. The movies deserve some credit for being able to keep my attention and committing to the true paranormal angle. Okay, on to the director. Now, this film's director, Bryan, is no stranger to being able to captivate audiences, with already filming a cult classic like The Strangers in 2008, and the not-so-classic The Strangers Pray at Night, and a couple of others not so known, which are like but he has obviously been able to create his own style of directing that has truly been able to hone his craft of true suspense and a good taste of horror, which definitely gave this movie a huge boost. Because of the plot, I could tell if not treated with the care, this movie could have easily become another campy, stupid, riddled, jump scare horror movie. Bryan obviously has been trying to recreate the magic that was The Strangers, though other suspenseful movies with creative themes and plots, but he has yet to be able to capture the sort of gripping tragedy that is The Strangers. But I can tell with this movie and how it's presented, The Dark and the Wicked was something of a step in the right direction for Bryan. Creatively, his career is kind of stagnant, at least for me. I don't know, he hasn't really came out with anything too groundbreaking, but because of the amazing actors, Maureen Ireland and Michael Abbott, this movie kind of got like an even bigger boost because of that, because those guys did a phenomenal job. I happen to think that those guys really did a good move here by just taking it to the next level. Now, the climax and build-up of this film starts taking off. I was looking for a couple of holes in the plot or characters, but honestly, I couldn't really find any. Not saying that there isn't any, but this is overall a pretty structurally sound movie that grounds itself with very fleshed out characters that have already tried to leave the house after an array of supernatural happenings, but would get met with a brick wall when they try to put their father in a hospital, but end up finding out by the doctor that he is so close to death that he refused to transport him due to the fact that he may suffer or increase his chances of demise. So out of fear and horrible discomfort, the siblings try calling another doctor, but find out that he wouldn't be able to visit for another 2 whole days. And towards the end, it is obvious that the siblings did not have another 2 days in them. Now, Bryan does a very good job at making our two main characters rational and logical people that, when met with such supernatural events, must come to one or two obvious ideas. One plan would be to save one's hide, to deny what's happening, and run for it and save yourself. Or two, search for the truth and stand your ground, seeing as how the demon is hunting you and the ones you love. Now, either way you look at this, to me, neither answer is wrong, because when faced with such horrific and evil visions and happenings, a human's real reaction to any of this would either be fight or flight. But seeing as how in the end it seems the demon unhinges the older brother first, and he ends up almost killing his father just so the nightmares would finally stop. But ultimately he ends up running away to his wife and kids and leaving his sister to suffer all alone with their father. But not all would end so well for Michael, and as we near the ending of the film, we are met with another sad and nihilistic final for both parties. But holy shit, Louise really does get the shit end of the stick when trying to find the courage to leave her father alone to die. After her dive into her mother's journal and witnessing all of the horrors that this demon has in store for her, she still decides to stay with her ill father in the end, with ultimately didn't go so well despite her courage. In conclusion, this film is a normal run-of-the-mill ghost story that diverts some expectations and plays it safe with grounded and believable characters. And with it being a pretty good demonic possession / haunting trope angle, it's a good horror movie in a sea of crappy horror movies where I think most of them are trying way too hard to make every character too relatable, and the antagonists, whether demonic or just a killer, are given far too much camera time, so the mystique and the fear of the unknown is pretty much completely gone. And thanks to the dark and the Wicked's director and the acting in this movie, it is given a good shade of light with its nuance and the deliverance of scares through subtle suspense. So I guess in the end there really is only one of two choices to make when dealing with something you can't explain like demons or the devil. Are you going to stay and face your fears? Or will you run and potentially save your own life? You may think you know what you would do now, but hopefully you'll never have to find out.
There are things in this world, horrible things, wicked, and they come for whoever they want.
I saw something.
She wasn't crazy.
You smell him? He's close now.
He's not out there. He's already here.
Is it too